I love doing these. We've been doing, if you've been with Shopify for a long time, like we used to do Unite, we're doing Editions.dev now. The whole point of this is to have a conversation. So please, please, please ask questions. And then also, like, we would love to hear from all of you a lot as well, like what you're seeing, what merchants need. So this is like not just like, I know we're sitting here as if it's a panel. It's not a panel. We would love to have this be more of a dialogue. But other than that, why don't we kick it off? Does anyone have a topic?
Should we introduce ourselves?
Oh, I guess so.
You have to talk really into the
You
mic,
should
Kevin.
start then.
Oh, hello. Okay, well, it's weird to start from the middle, but hi, my name is Kevin. You might have seen me on main stage this morning, where I
That's a
didn't
humble brag.
fail my demo. So congrats to me.
Congrats for not failing, yes.
Kevin, what do you do here at Shopify?
So I lead UX for Sidekick and also for Storefronts alongside Vanessa. And fun fact about me, I'm coming up on close to 12 years at Shopify. So I know a lot of you have been in the Shopify community for a long time. So same for me. So it's great to see all of you here.
Are we doing fun facts too?
I don't know. I'll just follow the trend. Hi, my name is Michael. I am a PM on the Sidekick team. I guess my claim is that I am the newest PM on the Sidekick team. Only been here for 2 months. And so I'm excited just to talk to y'all and let's learn more about everything you're seeing.
All right, I go next. I'm Vanessa. I haven't been here quite as long as Kevin, but I work on storefronts, AI, and a couple other things. And yeah, super pumped. Go.
I'm Andrew. I lead the machine learning and engineering on Sidekick. I've been here about 6 months.
Well, that's pretty much it. And you
And
have
then-
your own store.
And
Oh,
I've
there's
had
a
my own
maple syrup
Shopify
store.
store since 2017.
Doesn't he look like he
So,
makes
maple
maple
syrup.
syrup? Because he totally does.
All sorts of maple products.
Very Canadian.
And I'm Matt. I'm the product lead on Sidekick. Been here for 2 years. So Sidekick was my first project at Shopify, and it's exciting to see how far it's come.
Woo.
I don't know what my weird one fact would be.
I don't think it's okay. I didn't say one.
So
Okay.
with that, yeah, who has a question?
Let's go.
Raise hands. Okay.
Are you guys always saying sidekick or are you saying sidekick?
No. Sidekick. Sidekick. Never
Always sidekick.
sidekick. Never sidekick. Oh, psychic.
Sidekick.
No, never
You know-
psychic
you
or
know, weirdly-
We
sidekick.
should.
You know, weirdly enough, when we do transcriptions on the meeting notes, it actually gets it mostly wrong as psychic. Yes.
Yeah, but sidekick. Okay, anyone else?
Is the Sidekick a branded name?
Sorry?
Is it?
A branded name of yours? Like, for example, Stockmoney Off?
Yeah, please don't use sidekick in your apps. Okay, it is like something we are really investing in. It's a brand we're really building, and so like we've had to have some conversations with folks. Please don't use it. It's like an app trying to name itself Shopify, period. So yeah, go for it.
Your vision for Sidekick is to really help merchants get their job done faster. How are third-party apps going to plug in for that ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, to be honest, I was waiting for Sidekick to get good before we had this conversation. And to be honest, it's gotten good not that long ago. It's been incredible to see how fast the merchant base has picked up on it. I think that's actually speaks to the hunger from merchants and our, all the entrepreneurs to have a true agent that they trust, that they can actually feel like they can go back and forth with. So like it looks like we have been investing in Sidekick in a long time, but I think we reached a quality bar which hit a tipping point actually just earlier this year, right? And then now you're going to see us go really hard into it. But prior, I'm always one of those people who likes to do things. I like to do like, okay, let's get one bar and then another bar first. And I think for me, it was like the first bar has to be merchants really trust it, really trust Sidekick. Now that we're at this point, yes, in the next 6 months, we're going to work with all of you and make sure that Sidekick can do something like, hey, can you make me a new campaign? Sidekick goes, finds a customer segment, finds a discount, creates, works with, let's say, a third-party email app to basically send that campaign out. Like all of that will be something that we are going to invest in the next 6 months. But we've been working on it and up until now to make it really friggin' good.
But also, we want to flip it around, like Vanessa was saying earlier. Like, what do you imagine if you had an app today you wanted to integrate with Sidekick? Like, what do you wish it did? Like, do you have an example today?
I work for MailChimp, so that's a pretty good example.
There you go. Perfect.
what type of merchants can most benefit from Sidekick? Like in terms of GMV, like smaller, larger.
This is going to be surprising for a lot of people. It's actually quite spread, but a lot of plus merchants, larger merchants are getting a lot of value for sure. Like there are definitely lots of merchants getting started as well, but we've seen a ton of interest from larger merchants, specifically on areas like helping them analyze their store, helping them understand trends, helping them create new opportunities of like, how should I market, to my existing customer base. There's a lot of that stuff going on. And I think that you'll continue to see us invest. You also saw like a lot of stuff, this kind of additions around online store. So we're doing a lot of stuff for online store as well. Like Liquid AI Gen, if you have not tried to generate a block, oh my God, you have to go try it. Just for the pure like satisfaction of seeing it come to life, it's incredible. And then the settings and like, it is really deeply integrated and the team has done an incredible job. But like you can expect that we're going to invest in tooling that supports every use case from like, I'm a new merchant, I'm just getting started setting up my store, all the way to I'm a very complex large merchant and I want to understand my customer base, make sense of my data. So, but we are seeing a lot in the large enterprise. I think a lot of people think like, oh, it's probably just new merchants, but it's not.
This question here.
User use Sidekick the most for? And what is it the best at? Like, just curious, what you, as a team, think the sweet spot is for this?
I'd give it like a slightly different, like, I mean, it's what Vanessa said, but I think it's hard to generalize. I actually think it's more like a bimodal distribution. We see a lot of uptick when you're brand new. The people that join Shopify for the first time and Sidekick has always been there, those people are the most active because it's just like they never knew Shopify without it. And it became an incredible, useful tool to find things. It's actually one of the things, so you're asking what it's good at. I can't remember where the text settings are in my store. If I just ask Sidekick, it's quicker than me clicking around. And for a lot of those merchants that are early on and don't have that muscle memory, it's invaluable, right? But like Vanessa said, we also see it on the other side of the spectrum of like our most proficient users who definitely know where the tax settings page are and the orders page and they haven't memorized, but they're looking for analysis, right? And like that's like, some of them have data teams, some of them don't. But like the fact that they can just ask an agent to do it for them immediately, even when they have the access to a data team, is like a huge unlock. We've got these amazing customer testimonials around it. So.
Yeah, the other thing I'd add is that we're still in really early days with Sidekick. And so in a lot of ways, the user behavior has changed over time, right? What people can expect these things to do and what they realize and what they learn augments basically what those scenarios are for those.
Yeah, so like, looking ahead, right? Like, it would be really interesting to hear when you think about what do you think Sidekick should be really good at, how we can help, right, as an ecosystem, because like that I think informs what work.
Yeah, and I wanted to add something on like the data piece. It's kind of fascinating how like we have so many pages and dashboards filled with data for merchants to go and analyze their shop. But the magic of Sidekick is being able to ask a question and get the direct answer to the question you're asking versus having to sift through charts and tables and stuff like that and do that. And so there's one view would be like, oh, Sidekick is just kind of like, re-sharing the information that's already there. But I think for a lot of people, the way that it's being shared is so much more approachable. And I think that is very compelling. Another thing that we've learned and we've seen in merchants that maybe we weren't expecting as much because we kind of went into Sidekick thinking like, oh, what are merchants going to ask Sidekick to do for them? But a lot of the times it's almost the other way where merchants are asking Sidekick what they should be doing to make their shop better. And I think that's like an interesting opportunity.
Also like know that one of the beautiful things about agents is the ability to do compound tasks, okay? That will be something that we invest in. So like the example that I talked about with email, like in terms of use cases, it's infinite. But I think the value is the fact that Sidekick knows everything from like, hey, I can create a meta object, and then I can also make sure to put that on the online store, and I can use the same content to drive a campaign, like being able to access all of Shopify and then also combine it with your functionality that you guys are all building as the app ecosystem. That's magic. Like that's insane because merchants rely on your stuff so deeply to run their businesses that if we didn't integrate closely with you, we'd just be losing. Like it's like a Sidekick with no arm.
Sorry, I kind of have this from a slightly different angle from the agency space. I'm kind of interested from the perspective if the agent's there, the pattern of hooking up tools, and the way I'm thinking about this is in augmenting our architectural direction to inform our clients how certain behaviors should be pieced together. And this kind of lines into the app space as well. It's like grab your data from here or set your product up this way for this type of scenario. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm interested in hearing more about how we can hook into that chat, which I know you're starting to.
It's like Sidekick chat for that merchant.
Yeah, like obviously all core Shopify documentation, we're not going to rewrite that, but like bringing in the micro details and nuances to that build that help support that specific merchant in the way we've architected solutions.
I see. Yeah. That's an interesting idea, actually, to be like how you all, especially as agency partners, you have a deep understanding of how you have changed. However, what we are aiming to do is like Sidekick should just understand Shopify, period. So let's say you set up an integration. If you're using meta fields, meta objects, that should just work, right? If you are using a custom application, I think that's where we kind of get like, if you're building a custom application or a public application, the interface is the same. We've done a good job unifying those into a single app platform. And so when we say like, hey, I want to expose specific actions or intents so that Sidekick can act on that, that will be useful. You'll be able to build those and define those, whether you're building a custom application for a merchant or you're building a public application for the App Store.
What about scenarios though? Because sometimes you can solution things a few different ways, right? Shopify gives you these foundational tools, but based on business requirements, you've architected this in a very specific way. So I guess that's kind of the part that I'm trying to get into. So historically, we provide documentation to our clients that obviously supplement what's already available online to outline almost like recipes for how things should be set.
I think that's in Sidekick. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. We should talk more about that. I think like finding like shop specific like augmented like essentially ranking options is interesting. Yeah, for sure.
When some Sidekicks turn here, we'll send Trent Office Store and Roberto Warriors. Basically, what speaking, Kelly, see the name.
Sidekick able to work across apps. When I'm saying like it's able to work across apps, it's more like, hey, if I am building MailChimp or I am building a fulfillment app, it just means that Sidekick can help people figure out, okay, how do I use this in day-to-day? With agencies, I'd be curious to see like which aspects are you worried about? When you say like, hey, would it kill agencies? Like which part are you like, oh, Sidekick could take over that piece?
And have all the it's going to have all the actions that can be done about that routes and the principally described it also because all the pre-reflected on what actually right. So Sidekick essentially was smarter and more proactive than counteractive.
I don't know. I think that I trust you all, and I've spent so much time in the ecosystem over the last 8 years. Like you guys are infinitely creative. They don't just talk to you about their Shopify setup. They talk to you about their branding. They talk to you about their marketing strategy. Sidekick is also there not just for the merchant, but also for you. So as you set up their store, use Sidekick, right? But I also think that you guys do a lot more than what Sidekick can do. Like I think it'll be a while before Sidekick truly is a threat of any sort to your agency. But I think if that ever happens, like I would love to hear about it. I would love to hear like, hey, we used to do this and merchants used to value it, but like now that's no longer the case. We'd love to work with you to figure out, okay, well, here's what we're hearing from merchants across the board. Like these are some of the gaps. Like let's get you on some of those as well. There's so many hands. I don't know who is next.
Yeah, just building on the question about the kind of, maybe a custom or weird store setup. What are the limitations today that you guys are looking at most? Is it like it's a weird headless build or not weird, non-standard? What are like the kind of maybe configurations that Sidekick doesn't like as much or can't like interact with as well?
Headless is still a challenge, but honestly, I don't think we're not that good an online store yet either. So like I think in general, like our online store integration is like 2% of where we want it to be.
Maybe a more practical example, like I don't think we have any markets integrations yet. So like if you have customization within markets, like Sidekick is pretty naive. I mean, like a lot of that stuff is like on our roadmap, but it's like Vanessa mentioned custom meta fields, right? Like the initial versions of Sidekick didn't have any awareness of that. In the last couple of weeks, I think we've shipped that and it's like the first version of it. And then we're going to keep adding more. Like it doesn't understand definitions, but you can set a value, right? So like, I think over time, we're going to close those gaps and, Shopify is also always building. So like, it's going to be an endless game of playing catch up with all the new things that we release. But like we do try very hard to get to parity. Like I don't know if you all saw, but we announced mobile support for Sidekick. So we're in every language. We started off with English only. Now we're in every language around the world, and we're also on mobile and desktop. And then we've got more stuff in the works too. So like I think, as Vanessa said, we've gone wide, and so like I think that's been why we've been like focused heads down on like make it work with Shopify. And I think we're now entering that era of having that conversation with the ecosystem here of like, what does it look like to have a really powerful Sidekick with arms that you all are building to help us make a better Sidekick?
All three of you go at some point.
The agency question for like public apps. For the use case for new merchants coming in, they're expecting to use Sidekick to help out their store and troubleshoot problems and all this kind of stuff. For those public apps that, are meant to be kind of integrating and really doing like Shopify, will we also have that access to Sidekick to be able to provide support through the same channel? Integrations, but with support.
I love that idea. I love that idea. It's very, very similar to a specific custom store setup. I think that as we work together over the next 6 months, that would definitely be something that if we can achieve that would be great. Not just in terms of like actions, like, oh, Sidekick can do an action, but also can Sidekick help me, especially if it's an embedded app, it's right there. How can Sidekick help me debug? Helps you with customer service and not having a huge burden of tickets for your team. And then it's also like really nice for a merchant because it's right there. I love that idea. Yeah.
Go. So I'm just connecting things that I've had across the day. So had a lot about global APIs. And we've been speaking here about merchants doing analytics for their specific store. But do you see a world where, as a partner, we could ask questions about analytics about how many merchants are using Shopify and to help inform the better decision we make in the apps that we build? As an example, with the new markets feature, that's a lot of flexibility. So be able to ask questions of how our merchant is setting up this particular use case with markets and hearing analytics across all of the stores and not just the specific.
Yeah, we're really careful. I mean, you heard a lot today, and I set up an impromptu AMA because I got too many questions and I wanted to make sure it was really clear. Sharing data across stores is still something that we are very careful about and very intentional when we do it. I think that we've tried to hopefully answer through these forums and like hopefully DMs and in partner Slack, like where we see the opportunity for you guys. I can't see us releasing a Sidekick version that's able to answer some of those questions just because sharing the shop data across and saying like, hey, a third of the merchants are using markets and they're selling to the US is a little bit of a tricky situation in terms of the trust that merchants put in Shopify, and exposing that in not a closed room forum like this can be tricky, right? So I would say we'd probably stick to, hey, Sidekick is really for answering about a merchant's particular shop. We're going to get to a point where Sidekick is smart enough that it's providing general advice about what you should think about, how your products are doing, what you should, like, hey, your pricing strategy and all of that stuff. But I would say like for you all, like we're probably still your best source. Like Sidekick really works on a particular shop, not so much like, hey, I have awareness of all Shopify merchants and the features that they're enabling. I think we're probably humans. This is like humans are still your best bet for that. Go for it. Not at Shopify yet. Do you want to talk about it? Yeah.
Google's agent-to-agent thing? Yeah, this is a question we have internally as well. Like in the Sidekick, it comes into like is Sidekick doing deep research for you? Like going outside of Shopify for a second, like I believe agent to agent is really powerful as like you want to do something and then you have all these other agents that can go do it asynchronously in the background for you. So if you, yeah. Yes. So where I was going with that was like, it's not something that I see in like, as you chat, when it's going to do a background task, I think it can do like talk to multiple agents and then they come to some solution and they come back with the answer and like notify you, hey, it's done. But the Sidekick like chat is just about like pretty quick things happening. And then there's this idea that we'll probably introduce of like deeper research and that will probably be tied into more of the agent side of thing.
Are you building an agent? Is that why?
Yeah.
Not yet, but it's easy, and we have some
Yeah.
capabilities to be able to update some contents in the Shopify, especially the dot app.
Yeah, this is what we want to hear about and learn about. Like, what do people want to build? How do we make use of all the great stuff that you've built, and how do we expose like stuff that we built to you? So this is awesome.
Yeah, if you build an agent, come talk to us, because I think that is an interesting way for Sidekick to be able to talk to another agent potentially. What we don't want is we don't want Sidekick to become like some weird silo, right? Sidekick should work whether it's through grounding data and actions, right? Whether it's reg or like intents, or if you are building an agent, like we want Sidekick to be like, okay, cool, like Sidekick can now dispatch tasks and talk to your agent, right? And so I think that if you get to that point, like come reach out to us via Partner Slack. We want to work with you on that.
And we are like leveraging, you know, all these popular things like MCP for tools, and we'll probably, when we go to agents, we'll probably be leveraging A2A. So yeah, that's how, yeah, things by you guys should ideally be built for sure.
Strong tone and then global tone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just to build, so it sounds like you are thinking about providing external access to the capability so that his agent or my agent can speak to Sidekick, get data, or then start an action externally, so not within platform.
It's more, we'd have to decide how to do it. The use case that I was thinking when he was talking about it was like a merchant, you have an agent, a merchant starts from Sidekick, wants to talk to your agent. I'm actually not sure if we'd expose Sidekick externally. It would have to be something that a merchant grants.
Of course,
Yeah.
after permissioning, but
Yeah. So there's like, that one's a little bit, maybe. We're still early. We'll figure it out.
I think the other thing to belay here is like, I think we have a strong intent. Like we know we want to do this. I think there's some technical questions, like the standards are evolving quickly. But I think the other point that Vanessa brought up earlier is that there's incredible trust and safety issues here. Like, I don't know if you're watching the news, but like these things are all brand new. Like people are finding vulnerabilities in it. And like the access, the level of data that's inside of these conversations is like these stores proprietary, most like important information, right? And so like, if we allow third parties into that system, we have to do it in such a way that we know merchants' data is protected. So it's not like there's not a lack of will here. It's like that we need to be careful and protect it. And so like, I think everybody here is excited about taking that journey with us, but it's not going to be super fast, right? Like we've got to do this in a careful way. But I do think there's a way to get it done.
How are merchants using Sidekick the most, either to get more revenue or for time save? Top during the stuff funding.
Right now, I'd say like our analytics ability is really, really strong, and so I think that like it's hard to say, oh, that's what merchants want to use Sidekick for. It's a bit of chicken and egg. Like merchants want to use Sidekick for what Sidekick is good for, but Sidekick just happens to be good right now with that, and not so good for online store or for a couple other areas. But I would say like one of the insights that we had was, yes, like it's annoying to have to go and create a product. It would be great if Sidekick created a product for you. It's not as valuable as, wow, Sidekick is replacing, or not replacing, but like augmenting the role that I don't have, which is a data analyst. I'm a scaling merchant. I don't have a data analyst on my team. I used to just pour over all these sheets, and I was going to hire someone, but now I can use Sidekick to help me scale a little bit further before I need to go incur that cost, and now I can start growing. So I would say when we look at Sidekick, is the more of the like, hey, what are the places that you typically had to spend a lot of time and money? And I don't think we're going to get to that point with saving time with creation of stuff across the admin until we get to compound tasks. Compound tasks is like where I was like, wow, I can create a campaign in 2 seconds. Like all of us could feel like that's insane. I can just type some words, it builds it all for me. and then I say, okay, go, that's incredible. We are somewhat there yet. I think we still need a little bit more deeper integration into some of the resources inside Shopify, things like markets. So we're working on some of that. And I think that that's where we're coming to you all now and said, Sidekick's reasoning abilities are there now. Now we have to give it some more actions to be able to really see that vision through. But right now, the analytics capabilities of Sidekick are insane. So merchants are just like geeking out over that.
Generative AI is not right now ready for Sidekick, right? That's what I'm understanding. That's going to be later. But what about merchandising, like organizing products in a category or stuff like that? It's really time consuming.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think our bulk actions are super great in Sidekick yet. So I think we will get there. But to be honest, like we don't have bulk actions yet.
But for example, like taxonomy system is built entirely on AI, where it like automatically categorizes products as you type them in. It also adds like the attributes for category meta fields. And so we're like really interested in seeing how we can embed AI deeply into these workflows so that merchants don't even have to think about it. Like they shouldn't have to start a conversation to be like, hey, Sidekick, please categorize this product I just created. It should just happen automatically. And then you talked a little bit about generative AI. Like I do think we are doing
a lot
in generative AI actually, with like, you know, we've had text generation for a long time, but now also like integrating image generation, like block generation. And so we're going to continue pushing in that direction.
Yeah. We only got 10, so we got like 3 more, guys. No, he had his hand up first.
We have A/B testing now, so I'm just trying to think what the future will hold and how this interaction will take place. So, say Sidekick comes up with some ideas and it knows that there's these apps installed on that merchant store, and make some suggestions. I guess from our perspective and like how we can future plan is to make sure that we have a public API open or something like that, or if we have some kind of agent that would just say, hey, actually there really would need to be a place where we can like say this documentation is available so that Sidekick can read it and say and know how to talk to our API to be able to do some of these actions on that app with merchants so they don't have to click through and start the test and
We haven't quite decided the API, but I'm imagining we eventually do something either like MCP or like you'd be able to name your intent.
Yeah, I think the route we're going with this is like MCP tools and basically a set of documents that we can bring in and then make a query or make an API call would be probably what this ends up looking like. I think agent-to-agent stuff would be probably further out, and also that's like more of a challenge too, because then we have to think about like, well, what if these agents go off and they take like 8 minutes, then what do we do? So that's why I was saying when we get into agent stuff, it's going to be more about stuff that's happening in the background and not these simple things like, okay, we can call your API, give us docs, we'll rag it in and then make the query and then make that call. So probably like an MCP in the form of document search is kind of where we're going even internally.
Yeah, I'd encourage you to take a look at the MCP spec for people who aren't interested. I mean, like, it's not like confirmed that like that's what we do, but like it's generally a shape of things. And like if you think about it like slightly differently, like it's not obvious at first, but you can actually put some of your documentation in there because like MCP has space to be like, this is what this tool is for, this is what this server does. So like I'd start to get a feel for that. I mean, there's still more work on our side. Like we will have API docs at some point, but we just have to get the interface.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
And how can we certain web can pre-authorize Sidekick to do certain things? So there's an example that like this AI suggested categories, right? But a lot of times you have to go in there and say, yeah, I accept that recommendation, right? Like, is there one way you trust Sidekick them out to make those decisions? You know what? Yeah, just go whatever you recommend, just quick group then and do that automatically.
Vibe running your business.
Andrew wants that for him.
Shift tab.
Maybe for example, it's like, hey, I like this report weekly. You can tell Frankie what you want to have on the recurring. And so those are areas where I see like there's a lot of efficiencies that could count the Sidekick and people stare due to it. We have solved those.
I think we'll get closer to that over time, but we have to be very careful, right? Because this is a real live merchant's business. And so you don't want to tell Sidekick to like automatically figure out how much inventory should be adjusted on your site, and then wild things can happen. And so we want to make sure that the merchant always remains in control. So I think there are opportunities for automation like over time, but we really want to be careful that Sidekick has earned this trust and that merchants don't just like click the checkbox blindly and then don't realize what's about to happen. And in the case of the category though, like for example, when you create a new product from scratch, it'll automatically put that there and you don't have to manually accept the suggestion because you ultimately decide to have to click save once you're done for that product. So we're trying to find these little like efficiency gains here where like you don't have to like constantly be accepting these things while still preserving the merchant control.
But you will see us go deeper into like, hey, there's a fine balance between we want to have you review it and approve and be like, cool, that looks good. We just want to make sure that you get one last look at it before it goes. But it's still super, like it's amazing to just be like, hey, I want to recategorize all of these products in this collection. And then it's just like, and here's what I've created for you. It's like, awesome, go, right? That's still incredible. Now it's your turn. I think. You and then we're good.
Okay. Yeah. I would love to have more people install my app. What is Sidekick's approach to like, let's say, hey, I'm a new Shopify user using Sidekick. Can you recommend me some apps? And how does that conflict or complement with like, well, we pay for ads on the Shopify app
Yeah.
store. What if it's recommending like my competitor? That kind of sucks.
Yeah, to be honest, this is like an area, I will say, we're not going to be, Sidekick would never proactively suggest stuff. We had this debate internally even like yesterday, and like we're not going there, okay? We're not doing it for our own products, we're not doing it for anyone else. Like Sidekick will not cross that trust boundary of like trying to be a salesperson for merchants. But we will have to work with, if the merchant is asking like, hey, which apps can I recommend, can be recommended for me? To be honest, I think this is also where, just like how there are ad, like you can, when you come across an ad in the app store, it actually says ad. Like, to be honest, like the admin is a bit of a sacred place for us. We have in certain times, I think, recommended certain apps when we're very careful about when we do that in the admin because that is the merchant's space. And even then, like Sidekick is the merchant's agent. We always think that way. And so I can't promise you if you bid for ads in the App Store, you bid for ads in the App Store, man, you get like you're paying for what you get. I don't think that like Sidekick is going to, in that scenario, try and ask the merchant like, hey, what are you trying to do? What do you understand the context of the store? And it's going to try its best to recommend based on what it knows from the App Store, based on reviews from the App Store, based on it should feel akin to a friend, right? And it has nothing to do with the ads, right? But if you're a Built for Shopify app, like Sidekick will understands what that means, and that is a pro as well. But we're very careful about any type of monetary incentives to Sidekick because it would be like if your friend started earning commission talking to you, and that's not. We work too hard on Sidekick for that to be the thing that we go out and
I mean, it's actually kind of in line with that question. When you're thinking about the highest level kind of mission of the company to like make commerce better for everyone, what are kind of the metrics that you guys are attaching yourselves to determine Sidekick success? Is it ultimately merchant success? Is it growing GMV for the merchant? I'm just kind of curious, like your design principles and the metrics you guys are trying to follow.
I think that's like always a really interesting question. For me personally, I think it would be good to hear. We have like lots of product people in here, so they might have a different answer. For me, I think the biggest sort of metric, which is not going to be a number. You're talking to a designer, so I'm not going to give you a number. But for me, what we need to accomplish with Sidekick is fulfill the promise of AI. Because I think
that is a very designer thing.
But because like I think everyone, like you're all in this room here because I hope you believe in the transformative power that AI will have, and none of us quite know how far this is going to go, but there's a tremendous sense of like there's a big revolution happening right now, And I think that ultimately is like the biggest marker of success right now. And I'm less worried about adoption. I'm less worried about, translating that into dollar. Like, we know these things are going to come if we do a great job at understanding where the future is going and setting Shopify up, setting our merchants up for success, and setting all of you in this room up for success to take advantage of where technology as a whole is going.
I will say we're very careful at Shopify to not do like a KPI. Like, we more so want merchants to be successful. We use so many ways to do that. We look at conversations from merchants to understand what they're using it for. We try and understand, is there retention? Are they coming back? Not for the sake of gaming it, but just to understand, are we on the right path? So I'd say, like, I do suspect most merchants will use Sidekick most of the time that they log in.
I guess one of the things might be is like, what merchant failure rate? Like, how many merchants are you helping not fail?
I mean, that's the goal. Yeah. I mean, there's only, like, even for Shopify at large, we love to think that we can help merchants do that. I'm getting the signal, so this is going to have to be the last time. But there's a lot more to growing a business that you all help them do that Shopify and therefore Sidekick cannot do. We can try our best, but there's a lot of things that go into starting a business. So I think that's the way I would think about it is, yes, I would love to see the failure rate of entrepreneurship go down. That's why Shopify exists. And therefore Sidekick also exists for the same reason. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you.